my wife and daughter got me a fancy griddle for Father's Day. It's 22 pounds of steel, and it sits on top of the burners on my stove, and it takes about 20 minutes to heat up. But it's like a flat top griddle from a diner in my kitchen.
Do you do tricep lifts with it in between cooking? That seems 22 pounds. Seems like
it's really heavy.
It's heavy duty kitchen equipment.
Does that include the flapjacks?
Look, the flapjacks are extra. The first thing I made on it was pancakes and bacon. Okay. They were delicious. And the pancakes, like, you know how when you make pancakes in like a nonstick pan, they take a while to get the right brown, and you're like, oh, is this done or not? Is it? No, you just put that thing on there. Like 90 seconds later, you flip it and you're done.
What kind of fat are we talking?
I use for flapjacks, I use canola oil, usually vegetable oil of some kind. For bacon, I use bacon grease. The real winner of this whole thing, though, is the sunny side up egg, because like normally, you make a sunny side up egg, you got to put a cover on it on a normal stove because there's not enough heat coming through, and then as the bottom gets too crisp before the top gets cooked. This, you just put some butter down there, crack an egg, and boom, you're off to the races.
Can you tell me the advantage of the sunny side up over the over easy? What's wrong with just flipping the egg for a few seconds?
I like a clean top.
Okay.
Yeah, I like a untouched, no grease on the top.
Fluffy, virgin, unspoiled.
Ben, you're shaking your head.
No, I like my yolk sealed in there with a nice sear.
If there's a little bit of a gelatinous like white on the top, even, I'm okay with that. I like a loose sunny side.
No, thank you.
No crispy bits at all on my eggs, please. Oh, everybody's making faces now. I'm gross, I guess.
I like a runny yolk, but it's still, I like the experience of, cracking it open and, you get the like volcanic leak.
Well, yeah, you got to have the leak
onto your toast.
Yeah, you got to have something to mop up with the toast and the other bits of egg. But like, I don't mind a sunny side up. Is the thing about the sunny side up is if they properly execute a sunny side up at a diner, whether you're talking about like, your Nationwide, your Waffle Houses, or your Denny's, or like the mom and pop place down on the corner, like if they can do a sunny side up and they do it right, you know that they know how to make an egg. It's a hard egg to make.
They have food safety on the mind.
I think it's technique and expertise. I think okay. If you go into a diner for food safety, you made mistakes already. Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad.
Hey, Brad. How you doing?
I'm doing well. What are we here to talk about today, Will?
Today, we're here to talk about old internet stuff with, our mutual friend Veronica Belmont once described people of our generation who've been around on the internet for a while as internet olds.
Oh, boy.
And I think she said it she meant it as a kindness. Okay. Even though we were not old at the time. Well, that was probably 10 years ago now, so maybe we are old now.
But I have bad news for you.
Oh crap!
We're there.
But we're here with our friend Ben Brown, who he's been interneting for a long time, an original internet raconteur, I would say, causing problems and making weird stuff for a very long time now. Ben, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Hi, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, well, since Will put it that way, I have to ask, what is your date? I mean, you're not going to know your exact date, I'm sure, that you got online for the first time, but ballpark us, year at least, first time on the internet.
First time on the internet would have been in the early, on the internet would have been on the early 90s, I think, when I started dialing into the community access like library system to get Gopher access and things like that. Okay. But I was on Prodigy and dial-up BBSs and things like that even before the true internet hit my household.
Where were you that you had like you and I are about the same age, so like I didn't know anybody. I knew one person who had BBS access before I went to college, basically in 93, and I'm curious, like. I don't know where I would have even found out about internet access much before that.
Yeah, well, I was super lucky, I guess, that my grandpa worked for IBM. And like, because he worked for IBM and had retired, he wanted us to get Prodigy from like the Sears IBM like collaboration or whatever of the like mid 80s or late 80s, as I recall. And then, which Prodigy, for people who don't remember, is like a dial-up, like proto internet dial-up service that had like rudimentary graphics and like chat message boards and chat rooms and stuff like that, and like subject matter portals or whatever.
Kind of America Online, but more for nerds, I think.
You go. Yeah, proto America Online, but it was a walled garden, not the internet. And then, how did I get into BBS dial-ups? I have no idea. But in the I grew up in like suburban Maryland, and there were dial-up BBSs that we dialed into, and I hosted one on my own like 386 PC in my parents' basement.
Oh wow! What was that like? Did you have Was it a multi-line BBS? Did you have get multiple phone lines?
I wish. No. Okay. My parents let me turn it on at like 6 p.m. at night and like run it till 7 a.m. the next day. I like shut it down during the day when I went to school. But I would mostly just wait for people to dial in and then like chat them. Because they would be like going through the menu system, and I'd be like, sys up, like, hello, who are you?
Hello, user.
But how did people find? Did you post stuff on like flyers on screwdriver shops to let people know about it, or did you just tell your friends? Like, what was the? Wow.
Yeah, I told my friends about it, and you'd also like put your BBS in like a text file, and then that BBS.txt file would get like uploaded to other BBSs or whatever. So, you would basically have it would be kind of like surfing the internet now, right? You'd like go down your list of numbers and you like dial into this one, beep, boop, pop, pop, beep, boop, and like dial in, and then be like, oh, no new text files, hang up, like dial the next one, and like play the door games for a while, like, Legend of the Red Dragon or whatever, like do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some trade wars, and then, on to the next one. But that led me to our library system in Montgomery County, Maryland, or somewhere abouts, had this system called Cap Access, Capital Area Access, that was a free dial-up service that dropped you into a Gopher powered menu. And we quickly discovered, and this was free, but you had to like sort of apply for it. But like me as like a 14-year-old, applied for it through the library or whatever, and quickly discovered that you could like crash out of the Gopher system by hitting a bad Telnet link, and it would just land you at a Unix prompt. And so it was like free root account on this system, and so we use that to like get into to other stuff.
Get up to no good, you might say. Internet. Do you know what kind of Unix it was at that point?
Golly, no. Who knows, right? It would have been early 90s.
Right. It could have been anything, yeah.
Pre Linux, like kind of.
Yeah.
It could have been AT&T or anything,
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Weird.
But yeah, we would like Telnet into like MUDs and stuff from there, and like,
So we're talking today, though, because you've been doing some really interesting stuff lately, kind of delving back into the dawn of the early internet protocols. The stuff that like when I went to college, I was part of the endless summer in 93. I started college in 1993 and ruined the internet the first time.
Thanks.
The first wave of internet ruiners. And like I remember getting into Gopher and Usenet and IRC and all that stuff. But do you want to talk about the name of this? I don't want to out the service if you don't want people to. Oh, okay. So a friend of mine sent me a link to this thing. Mutual friend of ours sent me a link, and he's like, "Hey, have you signed up for Ben's thing? It's on Happy Netbox yet?" And I was like, "No, it's Happy Netbox. That's a good name." And I went and I looked and I was like, "Oh shit, Ben made Finger, but it lives on a web server."
He resurrected Finger.
Yeah,
performed some dark rites and brought it back from the dead.
Well, it never died.
Yeah, I guess it never really went away. Yes, we are here to talk about Finger. Let's just say it.
Finger.
We're here. Fingered. I can't say it, man. I cannot say it.
I know it's not a pleasant thing to say out to talk about.
But you have to. Like, what other verb is available? It's like it is literally the command. I don't know how else to say that. I fingered your address.
His plan file.
I fingered your address right before this, and I saw that you are updating your thing like daily. I guess it's your plan file, right? That you're.
Yes, I do update my Happy Netbox plan daily,
and you literally updated your plan file today to say that you were going to be on this podcast tonight.
I did.
I was like, there is someone using Finger as intended. That's very exciting to me.
Yep. Yesterday I had the list of comic books I was buying because yesterday was New Comic Book Day. Yeah, I mean, Finger, it started as like a cynical sort of joke about wanting a social network that was on purpose hard to use and like maybe obscure. Like we joked about like, you would have to have my SSH key to like curl my profile down and then decrypt it with like my crypto secret. And that's the only way you'd be able to get my updates. We were joking about that. And then, no, it's okay. And then I realized that like, that was basically what Finger was.
Like if you're not piping your social media requests through like 3 different Unix utilities, you're not trying hard enough. Exactly.
And, I've been around on this social network ride for a while and it's like not always fun. But yeah, and then so I started thinking, maybe Finger, that would be fun. Like how complicated is Finger? And it turns out that the protocol is trivially simple. Literally, you like connect to a specific port on a computer and send the username, and then the server sends back whatever it wants.
Well, and like the thing, you said something to me when we were talking about this the other day, but you were like, yeah, everybody still has Finger on their computers.
Yeah.
Like I didn't realize it, but Finger's in Windows.
Yes, I checked right before this. Like you can go pull up a command prompt in Windows right now and type Finger and it's there. They never stopped including it.
That was the magic moment for me. Like I started tinkering and then I was like, I wonder how hard it would be to get like, homebrew. No, it's installed on my Mac. And it's installed on Windows too. So there's like the client for this hidden, social protocol already there. It's been there since on almost every computer since like the creation of the internet, right? It's like from the 70s, 70 right? Something.
Like 77, I think I read right before this.
Yeah. And it's just dormant. But what was fascinating to me was like everybody has this like Matrix like cyberspace like experience like lurking on the command line of their thing where they could like get information about people in this like weird but kind of cool format. I thought, wow, maybe people will be super into this.
There's something kind of like elemental, right? Or primordial about it because it's just a text dump, It's literally like your plan file is just an ASCII, or what is it, UTF now, right? Not ASCII.
It's just, I don't know. It's just pretty much ASCII.
It's literally just a plain text file sitting in your home directory that somebody is like plucking information out of. There's something very like primitive about it in a really cool way.
Well, the primordial thing is interesting because like for me, the first useful thing I did on the internet was read about Quake development as posted through John Carmack's plan files.
Which we just talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, in like 1996, 1995. And that was when I was like, I got to download a Finger app for Windows. And at that point, it wasn't built in because it was pre, it was Windows 95, I guess.
Right. Or like all those websites sprung up to just serve those plan files in HTML form, right? Because a lot of people didn't know what that stuff was even about.
Oh, you mean the stomped plan file archive?
The Blues News, if you like.
So, okay, so this isn't the first time you've done this too, Ben, because you did a chat client that was it's not an IRC protocol, but it's like a web-based chat client a few months or years, I guess, before Happy Netbox.
Yeah, sure. I mean, my day job is working in the chatbot industry. And so I'm fairly familiar with the like technologies that are responsible for, doing basic chat rooms. And I sort of set myself a challenge to see if I could write a chat server that would basically be like burner chat. The idea being like, make it super easy for almost anybody to set up a chat room on like nothing hardware like Glitch. And like how small could it be to do that? And so it turns out super easy. Something like less than 1,000 lines of JavaScript code for the server and the client. And then like a little bit of CSS sprinkled on top, like gets you a chat room that like supports channels and hashtags and usernames and, crypto. So like it was end to end encrypted. So I started throwing it up on Glitch, like randomly, at night when I would like want to chat with random people and tweeting the links out. And yeah, you just have a little chat room, and then it would just go away at the end. And again, like I think that there's like some like mild, maybe not like well-developed desire. I don't know. I'm like a bit of a cynical, old school, crusty internet nerd or whatever. But like, I don't really want every chat or message that I send with my friends to be like searchable and archived and public, or even kept at all.
Things, it's sometimes ephemeral, the ephemeral nature of the old, like I miss the ephemeral nature of the old internet, right? Like,
yes,
like I miss going on message boards, and there's this thing that's happened over the last 30 years where everything started as centralized repositories that were like built on core protocols for the internet. We had IRC for live interaction. We had Usenet for archive stuff. We had Finger for like social status updates and telling people you're buying pants and comics. And like all of this stuff has then, well, first we privatized everything, which turned out to be maybe not the best idea. Who knew? And now like we're all looking at these privatized things like, well, this was a mistake, I guess. And I mean, this comes up kind of all over the place right now. But anyway, I'm rambling at this point.
No, I mean, like, you know, like you end up with all these situations where it's like, what do you mean I can't delete my messages from this corporate chat client I've been using for the last 3 years? Like, you mean I can't just purge my entire account? They're going to keep this forever?
Forever. And like, you know, we especially not concerning if you're talking about your company's intellectual property on the clock. But if I'm like messaging my friend on the side or having a conversation, you know, like, why is it all privy to the same rules? So, you know, it turns out, and one of the nice things about this kind of thing is like, I built this chat service that doesn't have user authentication, doesn't have archives, doesn't have like a system of, you know, archiving and searching and indexing. It doesn't have any of that stuff. So it runs without dependencies. When you delete it, it goes away. There's no record of it ever existing, which is awesome, unless somebody took a screenshot, which is always, you know, existential threat of the internet or whatever. But
well, that kind of highlights the contrasts what Will was talking about, right? Of like, you know, I spent years of my life on IRC, and like, you know, people on the other end could be logging what I was saying. Like, obviously, like anytime your information hits another endpoint, somebody could be capturing it. The difference is now there is this, like, everything rolls up into this central authority that is always capturing everything, right?
Exactly. Always capturing everything. So I just, you know, that's the kind of, in the olden days of the internet, it was much less about creating the, like, obnoxonomicron or whatever of everything ever said on the internet. You know, and one of the interesting things I see with people on Happy Netbox and their Finger profiles is that, I mean, they throw away everything every time. It's not like you build up this long Finger history. You know, you erase it in the morning and you write some stuff, and then the next day you erase it again. And not everybody's doing that. Some people are piling stuff on, but you can do. It's not de facto an archive.
I was going to say so I started at Ars Technica when we were literally a front page site running in like the basement at the Harvard Divinity School. And the downside of not having a content management system that automated moving everything down one post was that if two people were working on it at the same time, whoever saved first, their work just disappeared, which was never what you wanted, really. But like sometimes ephemeral is good. Sometimes not having that history is good. Sometimes it's bad. I really like the idea of like every tweet killing like each new tweet kills the one before it, right? So you're like, you know, there's one fewer thing that I thought about yesterday.
Can you imagine how much more tolerable Twitter would be if every person could only have one tweet at a time? If every time absolutely. You tweeted, your previous tweet disappeared, how much better would that be?
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's liberating too, because you're not like held to every last thing that you might have said. And not that I'm trying to like give people an out for saying bad things, but sometimes you're just being silly, and sometimes you're just chit-chatting with friends. And so I think it's important that people have that kind of venue to just kind of bullshit on the internet, and like you were mentioning too, like IRC days, like you go online, you talk to people with their weird handles. You don't know exactly who they are. Sometimes they know how to fix that like email config file problem you were having. And sometimes they were going to murder you or whatever.
Right,
but you just never met anybody from the internet. So just keep going.
Yeah. Well, so, okay. So there's a lot of stuff about Finger that's interesting. I can't believe we're going to talk about Finger for we're going to keep going on Finger, but I like, it's such a weird, like, it's a weird / important part of internet history. And that's why I was stoked when our friend told me about Happy Netbox. Like you talked a little bit about the history before. It started out as a kind of one-off, right? Like it was a thing that like so to do Happy Netbox, you went back and looked at the actual code. I guess is where to start.
Like literally the 70s code, like the original.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
C code. Yeah.
And there's all sorts of, there was, you learned stuff as a result of this, I guess is the next not question.
I did. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Finger, I looked at a lot of code bases for, in the course of this kind of project, because like I said, Finger is sort of in the family of these old school protocols like HTTP. Finger runs on port 79. Web runs on port 80, right? And then there's Gopher, which runs on port 78. Not by coincidence, right? These things were all developed like one after another and like in coordination and in use with each other. So people were like, oh, what's next? I don't know, Finger. So there's a lot of, like assumptions about who the users are of these things. Like there's a lot of gendered comments in the source code, don't mess up his screen with your annoying notification banners. He's working on something important at the university system or whatever, because the assumption is the user on the other end is a computer science professor logged into like the workstation. And like that kind of slipped out onto the public internet though. Cause like the problem was it was built by these gray hairs back then, right? Who were like, I'm designing the Unix plan system or whatever. And they wrote this thing and it's, like I said, super trivial. It doesn't really have much sophistication to it at all. There's no authentication. There's no user stuff. You don't know who's requesting your Finger. You can't block somebody on Finger or anything like that. And it's attached to your Unix account. So if you're at a university and you have a Unix account, then somebody can Finger your account. And in the original implementation would show like, are you logged in? To what terminal are you logged in? How long have you been logged in and what program are you running?
I wanted to bring that up. I've got a BSD, a free BSD machine running under my desk, and I jumped in there and fingered my account. I did a Finger-S, and it's telling me which teletype I'm logged into. It's got columns for office and phone, which of course I didn't fill out, but like I love that throwback to the original use of this stuff, which was like academic institutions, right? And like
absolutely.
and time shared, like networked, like central mainframe type stuff. Like I love this throwback to like, oh, you would want to know which office each person was in because you might have to walk down the hall and find them, right? And
in like a glowing, like reminiscent way, when you think back on those days, it would be great that you can see like what your fellow students or your TA or your professor is up to, and they're like posting useful stuff in their thing. And in the dark, cynical reality, people were like being, you could stalk people and like find out personal information about people all across the internet without any kind of restriction put on. So, I mean, it died like a sort of unglorious death because people were like, this is creepy. So when I went to do it again, I was like, we'll just skip the part where it says what your phone number is and when you last logged in. Like, cause I said, that's not in the protocol. That was a design decision by the people who built Finger to include those fields in the default output. Right. So I just skipped that part and made it about posting ASCII art.
So is what you've done like kind of would you call that like a re-implementation of the protocol? Like you've kind of modified and
I mean, I just implemented the protocol.
Okay.
The traditional displayed material in the output of a Finger from like your Linux or whatever is just the text that they decided to return.
So right? They chose. So what you're saying is the BSD whoever implemented the finger protocol in BSD said, oh, we should put this other stuff in because it'll be useful and convenient. Not necessarily that it was part of whatever. Are there like IEEEs for these protocols?
Oh, dude, I've got the RFC for the finger protocol right in front of me. Of course I do.
Of course there are. Yeah, I should have known.
From December 30th, 1977. Yes, in fact.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating. Those code bases are out there, and there's multiple like competing code bases for some of these things. Another one is the Unix talk command, which is like fascinating to look at because there was multiple generations of this thing. And it, again, is installed on many people's computers, but doesn't really exist as a service anymore in the cloud, which due to vagaries of the protocol is required.
I'm curious, like, since you mentioned code bases, how hard was it to track down that original 1977 implementation? Because if you Google, finger protocol source code, it's not that it's obscure. It's just that there are so many other versions out there. Like GNU Finger is the first thing that comes up, which is a later implementation done for Linux, right? And there's like all these, like, here is the second match is a GitHub repo of like finger written at Go. Like, how hard is it to find, like, you just want like Unix finger? Like, it seems like it's kind of gotten buried by all this newer stuff. Yeah.
Well, luckily the core Unix packages are the source code of those things are all like available forever, right? Like it's been all available on Usenet or not Usenet, but like on various weird things for a long time. I can't remember exactly what I, did to search, but I was going through and I would look for things that were like on Google Code Archive or whatever, like things that are no longer in active use. It's not on GitHub. That's not what you want. You want the like Subversion repo from like something, so, from when the, Slackware Linux was being distro. So that's where I would find these things. And then there would be like weird comments and stuff in there and like the old code, project maintenance history that like ended in 2002 with the guy being like, I'm sick of doing this. It's been 20 years.
Somebody's been maintaining finger for 20 years. Good God. Oh, wow.
Well, the Unix talk thing had like multiple schisms and everything, it's like, whoa.
Well, there's always scene drama, Ben. That's the one, the one. I didn't use Unix talk ever. I don't know what Unix talk is. Can you explain it?
So it was the same kind of thing you would say like talk will at, domain.com. And that would, from a command line tool, and that would send a ping out to like your server, and then you would get a thing that said like Ben at benbrown.com wants to chat. Do you want to chat? You would say chat or talk Ben at benbrown.com. And then this like intermediary service would connect the two of us via our command lines, and then I would get like your line of text, my line of text, your line of text, my line of text. So it was like one to one, like IRC style chat kind of, but it was like terminal based.
Wow. So okay, so hold on. Does that mean that we spent the first 5-6 years of the web, 10 years of the web, rebuilding all the Unix tools in dedicated services, and then we spent the next 10 years doing it again with Ajax and tags, and then the third one is probably adding like crypto like blockchain to it now? Is this what, are we doomed to repeat this forever and ever and ever? And we're just going to keep rebuilding talk and
yes.
Oh God.
Well, particularly because people never look back at these things and with interest to understand what they were, how they were used. I mean, the time we've spent, this is something I say to my peers all the time. They're like, okay, old man Brown, I used to be the kid. So listen to me.
The curse of every kid is that you go transition straight from being the kid to being the graybeard. Right.
Exactly.
Like around the time your kid turns 6 is my experience.
Exactly. But we've spent, how many, the last 20 years, like redesigning buttons on websites, like good for us. Like what did the web really add over Gopher besides like ads?
Well, I mean, the people who sell the ads probably feel pretty strongly about the value of the ads, but the rest of us are less enthusiastic, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, we, like you were saying earlier, it like we used to talk about the commercial web and the non-commercial web as separate things.
Yeah, there's a non-commercial web at one point. That's funny.
Yeah. And then that just went away. And I don't think that it has to necessarily be commercial or not commercial, but the commercial web means that stuff must constantly be created and layered on top of stuff. And that pushes some of the good stuff down and away. And so if we pause and look back at these things every once in a while, we find the things and it's like, oh, why do we build IRC if we had this? Why do we build AIM if we had IRC? Why do we build, all of these things? It's like, well, because people are egotistical and like greedy and
and nobody wanted to use the command line in 1996 because that was hard,
yeah.
right?
Well, graphics are cool.
Yeah. Look, you just double click the icon and then you type in you type in oscar.aol.com, aim.com, and then you put in your password, you put your ICQ number, which is 1129645.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's so like what, so, I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, and you talked about glitch. For people who don't know, glitch is a neat kind of, it's like an app bucket for web apps that means you don't have to fool with installing web servers and all that stuff. But you've been doing this for long enough that like it used to be that getting a web stack running on a machine was hard. Can we get into talk about that a little bit? Because I think people don't really appreciate that now.
Are we talking about LAMP here, or what are we doing?
Maybe pre-LAMP even, maybe.
Pre-LAMP?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dude, well, look, when I moved to Austin in 2000 to form my first startup with my three co-founders, we were like, okay, we're going to need some computers for this whole internet business. And so we ordered them on the internet, and the rack mounted cases that were like 4U rack mounts, which means like the big ass honking like rack mount server.
Yeah.
And they arrived at our house where we put hard drives in them and then drove them up, installed probably FreeBSD on them. And then on top of that would install Apache and name service daemons and things like that. So you could like actually route your traffic between the servers. And then we drove them up to the ISP and like screwed them in. And then when they crashed, I would drive up to the ISP and like hit the power button. Yeah, it was crazy, dude. When I was a kid, we would go to Best Buy or whatever and buy the Slackware Linux distro on CDs.
Oh, I bought this. I bought Secrets of the Doom Masters and a Learn How to Use Linux book that had like Slackware 1.2 or something on, or Debian, whatever. I can't remember what the first Debian was, but ancient anteater or something. Probably.
In my limited experience at that time, Slackware was possibly the hardest way to learn Linux, but a lot has changed.
I mean, does Slackware even still exist? I can't imagine.
Yeah. Yes,
really?
Slackware is alive and well. I guess well is the right word to use there. I mean, they're still going. They put out. This is how I spend my free time. They put out a new version. Oh, I'm sorry, 5 years ago.
Okay,
is the newest version
alive, but maybe not so well.
Yeah.
It's not actively being updated, but anyway.
So I mean, it's a little bit of a bummer. Like this is happening in podcasting right now. Mike Masnick of Tech Dirt posted a thread about this earlier this week. And it's a weird time because like Spotify is spending money buying up podcasts just as always happens when there's some sort of, it's not like podcasting is a new medium at this point. It's 20 years old, 15 years old, but
there's always got to be something that's hot though. Like in that world, right?
Celebrity podcasts are exciting. Sorry, Brad.
Like on the commercial internet, in the commercial space on the internet, there's always something that is sought after, right? And it just happens to be podcasts right now.
Yeah. But as a result of these exclusivity deals, they're pulling the old shows off of the RSS feeds. So like all of a sudden, your podcast that once existed in the podcast app with all your other podcasts is now only available on Spotify, and it just seems like we're doomed to repeat the same things over and over and over and over again. And I mean, maybe this is just what getting old is seeing the jeans go from flared to boot to narrow to skinny to flared again. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to have space for the punk rock podcast revolution to, rebel against the corporate podcastosphere. And
look, man, we're listener supported. We're coming to you. It's the realest podcast.
Yes, this is the pirate radio of podcasts.
We're here to talk about the real shit that nobody else wants you to know about, like Finger Man.
Finger. Do you ever hear about Gopher, kid? Go donate to my Patreon and you will.
Gopher was my first time. Like that was the first time I looked something up on the internet, was using Gopher and connecting to like the University of Illinois library system to download, because they posted full, like I was able to use it I didn't have to go to the library to do my research for papers. I could just pull the whole thing I could pull the extract from Gopher and get enough of what I needed from there to get the fake citation for my bullshit. Paper.
I mean, one of the things that I want to go back to your podcast thing, but one of the things I like about chatbots, and one of the things that was appealing to me about the IRC style chat and like Gopher and all of these things is that they're just pure, they're just the text, right? Like it's just information, and however good that information is, it's just that there's not like an aesthetic or a very light aesthetic, right? There might be a little bit of like figlet fonts or whatever. You might get a little ASCII art in there, but they're pretty much just straight text. And it was appealing to me to think about like what the internet would be like if it was like designed by like, information architects and librarians or whatever, like only like it didn't. And nothing against visual designers or whatever, but I love a good movie poster as anybody else. But maybe we didn't have to spend so much time. Again, I spent like 20 years like building commercial websites for people, like adware and junk and like e-commerce sites. So it's like, I spent a lot of time deciding if the pixel background is going to stretch or like not stretch, or if the button was going to be blue or yellow. It's like millions of dollars. Like what if it was just like simple like text menus that just said what you wanted and you clicked on them?
And like the more insidious version of what you're talking about is like, what form of like user tracking and telemetry is behind that message you're sending, like what data is being harvested here, what things are lurking under the surface that you're not aware of. That's kind of what I was getting at with the plan file, right? It's just text. Like it's only what you put in there and nothing else. It's just very raw.
Does Happy Netbox have a privacy policy, Ben?
No. Happy Netbox doesn't even have CSS files. I mean, it's just my dad has asked me several times to reset his password. I'm like, Dad, there's no way. I just delete the text file, I guess, because actually it is just text files being written behind the scenes. So I'm like, I guess I'll do that. Like it just has your like encrypted password in it. So I don't know how to change it unless I create a new account and like copy paste the encrypt. I don't know. I'll just delete your text file.
Make a new account. But we don't try. Somebody else grabs it.
Yeah. Didn't put Google Analytics on there because I didn't care to know. And
I mean, the whole page is like, it's 1.86 megabytes. That's memory used. Never mind. Sorry. Yeah. It's very small.
2K. Yeah. I mean, one of the things I wanted to see was like, how little could I do to like launch a sort of quasi social network, and like, how far would it go? I've entrepreneurial friends who are like, dude, this is incredible. You're like reinventing this whole thing. It's going to be huge. Oh my God, get ready. It's going to explode. I'm like, dude, I don't know. It like involves a command line tool and it's text only. And like, I didn't put any CSS on the website. And he's like, no, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. And then,
is that all it takes?
Is that all it takes?
Turns out. Put a 40-year-old protocol in front of people, the right people with the right amount of money, and that's it.
Well, they're like, they're hungry for the alternative social. No, they're not. Like it capped out at 400 people on the first like weekend, and then it's been like 3 months, and there's like 402 now. Will, thanks for joining, by the way. Member 402.
I was on day 3 or 4. I got Will at. I'm early, man.
I have Brad at. I showed up a little later, but we're all there.
I've never been able to get a first name before because it's a 4-letter first name and nobody does those. So it was really exciting. I was glad to get in on the ground floor on this one, Ben.
Yeah, you're good. You locked it in there until I decide that it's boring and I'm going to delete it eventually because it'll just disappear. And then I'll find another use for happynetbox.com in the future. Perhaps a corporate podcast network.
Oh, perfect.
Or like a punk rock podcast network. How about that?
Now you're talking.
That'd be better.
Okay, so what's the defining characteristic of the punk rock podcast network? Is that you don't care about money and you just want to burn the whole thing, burn down the establishment? Mm-hmm. Is that the...
And you delete every episode at the end of recording it.
Oh no, man. It's only up for a week. You got to listen to it that week and then it just goes away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ephemeral
I had
podcast.
sorry, this is just another random Ben story here, but this is what you invited me on for, right?
This is what I know. I knew what we were getting into.
There was a website back 20 years ago that you're not allowed to talk about that had files on it that were I'm not allowed to say it, but it was a fun community website that many people were a member of. It's not illegal in any way, but it was sort of secret and we're not supposed to talk about it.
Yeah.
And on that website, you could upload files and people could download them and see them. And people would like upload and make their own like pictures or whatever. But this was in a day back in like 2000 when it was like expensive to upload and store files and share them with your friends. So anyways, I had a video podcast show that I would like record in my house back in when I was like 20 years old. And it was like 600 megabytes, an episode. It was like 5 minutes long or whatever, but these were like a little QuickTime file. Yeah. So I would upload them to this thing and we could only ever have them up for the one episode because it would like bankrupt somebody to serve off their personal website, like terabytes of, or gigabytes of, or even megabytes of video, it'd be crazy. Because back then you were like metered on the internet use, right?
I remember like when you were paying for upstream, I remember having really serious questions with the conversations with the business people. And we launched a podcast for Maximum PC in like 2005 about what the lowest possible bit rate we could do for an audio podcast was without blowing out our hosting budget on like the first episode. And now you pay $20 a month or something and they don't care. They're just like, it's storage. It's free at this point. So I know. So I mean, I guess what the next question is, the business question is, what's finger in a world where compute online is free? Think about it.
Yeah, it could be huge. It could be huge.
Are there so like you talk about, putting old command line utilities in front of entrepreneurs and them getting very excited. Like you talk about people having rebuilt the same tools every decade for the last 40 years and all that stuff. And then that makes me think of things like, there's an IRC interface for Twitch chat, for example. Like, I feel this like snide sense of satisfaction every time I see something like that of like, yeah, you're Twitch and you're a $1 billion entity, but underneath all that, there's some obscure ass protocol from the late 80s that is backing a bunch of this stuff. Like, do you know of any other examples of stuff like that where there are like these massive platforms out there that are like quietly relying on like this very old, like primitive, stuff that came out of academia, the stuff that was developed by like a dude in college or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, look at jQuery. Like that was like, remember how jQuery like ran the entire front end internet for like 10 years as like the number one development tool. And that was just like some random dude in his like volunteer time. I mean, yeah, like I would say like broadly, the entire internet is what you just described.
Sure.
Like things are run on the crustiest of like old weird protocols and like weird stuff. So I think that basically is the internet writ large.
I once did a project for a Fortune 500 company that I can't talk about who it was, but we got to the point where we were doing the kind of due diligence before the final deal was signed. And their lawyer was like, we need to know everything about every dependency in your tool chain. And I was like, well, fuck. This isn't going to happen now. There's no chance, because I started looking at what we were using and it was just a whole series. It's like the whole thing is built on top of there's like stacks of eggshells where the dome is heaped up and you put them on top of each other. And then it kind of works until the one on the bottom, the guy on the bottom is like, he is just like, I don't want to deal with the scene drop anymore and backs out of the whole thing. And yeah, it's a little worrisome, except for it hasn't blown up yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's the amazing thing is that like like Finger, right? It's been around on our computers for this whole time, and it hasn't like caused any sort of major internet scandal. There was a worm way back in the 80s or something, but it hasn't caused any like major, it's just sitting there cruising and it still works. It's fine. And so does the like, left pad node mod. Oh, I know that one's broken, but yeah, but yeah, it's like just a pile of like other people's code that we all like sort of hope that will still work. And we should all probably just throw it away and start from scratch. But
shared illusion. Pay your maintainers. That's the takeaway.
Yeah, that's right.
Donate to your open source projects. Ben, thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm going to ask one more question. You wrote Telnet in here. Any fun thoughts on Telnet?
Oh, good call. I mean, I would just point out that there was a really great Telnet zine that came out called anewsession.com that was basically you Telnet to this domain. And Telnet is another one of these like super arcane protocols that died for good reason because it's completely insecure. It's like a plain text protocol where like, hey, can I send some text to you on your other server? Sure. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the text. Oh, everybody can see this text. Oh, that's fine. Let me send me. What's your password? Anyways. But they created the zine that you can explore over Telnet, which is super cool. anewsession.com, which I think there's a bunch of things like that people are out there experimenting and finding these things. There's a guy I know who is like setting up a Gopher server and publishing stuff in Gopher. Like we're probably going to do a Gopher Happy Netbox thing eventually too, like just because it's kind of fun and quirky and like maybe somebody will do something fun with it. Maybe not.
We talked about there's a Gopher project that lets you basically convert, I think it's nested. It's a folder structure with flat text files in it into basically a Gopher server really, really easily. The Gopher clients aren't as robust these days as the Finger client is, it turns out. Who knew?
No, I know. They're not installed.
Yeah, weird. Yeah. Ben, thank you so much for coming by. It's great to have a chance to chat. Where can people find out more about Happy Netbox and Ben Brown if they would like to know more about either of those subjects?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Ben Brown, and then happynetbox.com.
I think accounts are still open. So
you can be 403.
Thank you so much for coming by, Ben. It's awesome to catch up.
Thanks so much.
And as always, we are incredibly appreciative of our beautiful, thoughtful, kind. I'm out of adjectives.
Generous, thoughtful, patient, intelligent,
informative,
handsome, beautiful, lovely.
You're probably good.
Indomitable of spirit.
Oh, that's a good one. If you would like to help support this 100% listener supported podcast, you can by going to patreon.com/techpod. Again, that's patreon.com/techpod. For $2 a month, you gain access to the fabulous TechPod Discord, where this morning,
yes,
I will tell you what happened. I learned something new.
Oh?
I learned something new almost every day in the TechPod Patreon Discord.
Right.
However,
it's not hard.
No, it is not. It is not difficult. But this morning, I learned the origin of the dancing parrot.
Dancing parrot?
The dancing parrot.
Dancing parrot. I saw a dancing parrot in there, but I didn't.
The party parrot. There's a lot of party parrots. I'd never seen it before.
Is this like Is it like an old internet meme or something? What are we?
It's Stephen Fry was in a jungle with someone who's taking pictures of this incredibly rare parrot that then mounted his head and humped him.
Okay, that's not the type of dance I thought we were talking about. But
well, I mean, it's the no pants dance, Brad. Parrots don't wear pants, is what I'm saying.
Like the romance dance.
Yeah, the romance dance. I learned about this for the first time. I'd never seen it before. I'd seen the party parrot before. I did not know the origin of the meme. Today I learned.
I have ended up in the parrot conversation now.
Yeah, you're part of the parrot party now.
With a BBC YouTube video entitled "Shagged by a Rare Parrot."
That is the one that I watched, and now I understand the party parrot, and I will laugh a little bit more every time I see it from now on. The video is eminently worth watching. And if you would like to be part of that, you can go to patreon.com/techpod, find out how to sign up. As always, thank you to all of our patrons. You guys are awesome. You all are awesome, and we really appreciate the support. Again, it makes the show possible every week. A very special thanks to our executive producer tier patrons, Andrew Slowski, The Bunny Fiend, Jacob Chappell, Joel Krauska, Twinkle Twinkie, David Allen, and James Kamek. Thank you all so much.
Yes.
On that note, I guess we should wrap it out. I'm going to go update my Happy Netbox plan file.
I haven't updated it. I updated it the first time the day I registered the account, and I don't know if I'll ever change it because I think it's probably perfect as is.
Are you just Brad at? I'm going to finger you right now.
Okay. I don't want to feel like I'm beating a dead horse. We've talked about this topic a lot over the last few weeks, but I want to see if you can figure out, or how long it takes you to figure out what it is. You have a blank stare on your face.
Is this a task list for Quake? VSync on high frame rates, Jib death, grenade twinking brightened alias models. This is a This is a Carmack update from...
It's just the first planned update about Quake ever. That's all it is.
Interesting.
I had to put something in there.
Vid mode 15 crap. There you go.
I wanted to bring up real fast. I've seen some people asking on various Discord servers.
Yes.
About us talking about retooling our patron tiers.
Yes.
I think we're not there yet.
We've both been busy, it turns out.
I think we should just say, for people who are wondering, we're not quite there or ready for that. So don't worry not if you're trying to get in under the gun or curious about when that stuff's going to change. We're trying to figure out a way to do it right. And
that's the point is we're talking about it. We want to make it good. And we don't want to look, the $2 tier is probably going to go away, but the people who are on the $2 tier now will have access to the Discord forever as long as you continue being a part of the Patreon. But yeah, there's we want to change the tiers once and then not have to mess with them for a long time is the goal, I think.
Yes. And not do a bad job of it. So, which is why we haven't quite gotten there yet.
So if there's stuff you all would like to see, I guess, post in the Discord. Let us know in the this week's episode part of the Discord. I'd be curious to see what people think and what they would like. We should run another survey, but I guess that'll do it for us this week. I'm gonna go update my plan file.
I've been sitting here in the shell the entire time that we were talking to Ben.
Just ready to go.
I was messing with Unix talk as he was talking about talk. I am currently checking out that Telnet zine he talked about on anewsession.com by telnetting to anewsession.com. Yeah. Command lines are fun.
I didn't know there were Telnet. Have you read the Bruce in the beginning there was the command line book?
No.
You should read that. You would enjoy that book, I believe.
Primarily he's a fiction author, right?
He writes both. I think that's a Bruce Sterling.
Does he do tech writing as well?
He started out as a huge nerd. Yeah, I think he started out writing docs, maybe. I can't remember.
I will look that up. I enjoy the command line quite a bit.
Yeah, it's very much your jam. It's Neil Stephenson, not Bruce Sterling. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, who also is a noted fiction author. Anyway.
Oh, yes. You don't say.
Yes. That'll do it for us this week. See you all next week. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good week.